Good morning, students. I welcome you all in class 11th Bio. If you have opted Bio in class 11th, definitely you wish to be a good doctor in near future. And I hope in class 11th and 12th, in these 2 years, you will work hard, and definitely after completion of class 12th, you will come up with the flying color. I wish you all the best in the start of the session, that you will be a good doctor in the near future. In class 11th Bio, actually in class 11th and 12th, class 11 is very, very important for qualifying NEET exam, because most of the contents of biology is given in class 11th. It covers diversity in the living organisms, animal kingdom, plant physiology, animal physiology. You can say the class 11th is the backbone. In class 12th also, 2 to 3 units are difficult. But as per difficulty level is to be there, I think that class 11th is very vast and difficulty level is more in comparison to class 12th. So you will not take class 11 very lightly. From the starting of the session, from the beginning, you have to work hard, and whatsoever the questions are to be there related to the contents which we are going to cover on the daily basis, you will interact. You can write your comment till the date you are not coming in the school. You can write your comment in the comment box, and I will reply the answer also. In class 11, the first chapter is the living world. Today, I will give a brief introduction about the living world, that what is living world and what are the characteristics of the living things. What do you mean by the living world? As you know, the earth is the center of so many diverse group of the living organisms. These are living organisms, they get their shelter on the earth. They live in the different habitats, in the water. Some of the animals, the plants, they are well adapted in the water, in aquatic life. Some of the plants, some of the animals, they are terrestrial. Some plants, they are present in the desert. Some living organisms, even they are found into a very harsh environmental conditions where the temperature is too much. You can't imagine. Some of the bacteria, they can thrive, they can multiply even in a very hot climatic conditions where the temperature is generally exceeded above than 90 degrees Celsius. Some of the microorganisms, even they can survive even into a very cold climatic conditions. So the animals as well as the plants, they are adapted to live into the different habitats, and all these living world, the living organisms, they are collectively called the living world. It includes bacteria, protozoa, invertebrates, vertebrates, all the multicellular animals, means all the living things, they are included into the living world. Now you will see here the characteristics of the living things. As you know, all the living organisms, they have some basic activities which make them different from non-living things. The living characteristics are growth, reproduction, metabolism, body organization, consciousness, and some others living characters are also there. Let us start all these headings in detail about the characteristics of the living organisms. First one, that is growth. What do you mean by growth? The growth is the process of the increase in the number of cells. Even the volume of the cell is also increased, and this is also called growth. During the process of the growth, the cell divides and increase in their numbers. You can see in the case of unicellular organisms like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, chlamydomonas. These unicellular organisms, they divide very fast, and we can observe their growth by counting the number of their cells. If you wish to grow bacteria inside the laboratory condition, if you want to see the growth of the amoeba inside the laboratory condition, we can count, we can observe that how many bacteria within a certain duration of the time they grow inside the petri dish, inside the culture media. So by counting, we can observe that how many numbers of the microorganism they are going to be increased within the certain period of the time. In multicellular organisms also, there is the body growth. As you know, if you are taking the examples of the plants reproduce. After the reproduction, in sexual reproduction especially, the zygote is formed, and zygote is unicellular in nature. You can't observe zygote by your naked eye. But zygote later on, it undergoes into the process of the growth. Zygote divides by the process of mitotic division. Zygote, it forms embryo. Embryo is multicellular. Then embryo again gives rise to the new plant. It forms the radicle, plumule, cotyledons, and there is the germination of the seed. Means what is going on? The growth is going on. And again, that seedling, the small plant, grows into the herb, then shrub, and then the tree. Especially, I am telling you, the plants' growth takes place throughout their life. But in animals, the growth takes place up to a certain age. After that, the process of growth is stopped. You can think about the growth of the human being. All the human beings, also produced by a single cell, that is zygotic cell. The zygote, it forms embryo, then embryo it forms the fetus, then fetus, after the completion of the gestation period, there is the birth of the young ones. The young one, the child undergoes again into the puberty condition, till the adolescence condition, till the age of 18, 19, 20, the growth takes place. After that, the growth, the height of the individual gets stopped. But later on, the healing, the replacement of the cells takes place, the body growth in the human being gets stopped in the later stage of their life cycle. So growth is very, very important characteristic of all the living organisms, either it is bacteria, amoeba, or you can say the multicellular organisms such as plants and animals. And one more important point you have to remember, the growth in all the living organisms is internal. Non-living things also they grow. It's very interesting. Like mountains, there is the growth of the mountains also, sand also. But that growth of the mountain is due to the deposition of the different layers. This is external growth. But in human being, in all other animals, in plants, in all the living things, the growth is internal. And internal growth doesn't take place in the case of non-living things. The second one, that is reproduction. I have already taught in class 10 that reproduction is not important for the individual's life, but the reproduction is necessary for the continuity of the life. As I told you that the living organisms are mortal. A day will come when all the living organisms, they will get die. But to sustain the life on the earth, the reproduction is very, very important. Each and every individual has tendency to produce the new organism, the offspring of their own kind, and they produce the offspring of their own kind by the process of reproduction. In class 10, you have already studied that amoeba, paramecium, euglena, Eulothrix, Spirogyra, most of the unicellular organisms, they reproduce by asexual means, while plants, they reproduce by asexual and sexual methods both, and especially the human being and animals, they reproduce by sexual method. So many types are there of the asexual reproduction. Binary fission, you can remember. Amoeba, paramecium, euglena, they reproduce by asexual method, especially by binary fission. Budding, hydra, yeast, they reproduce by which method? Budding. Eulothrix, Spirogyra, these two are the filamentous algae and they reproduce by fragmentation. Fungus, all the fungi, the fungus bread mold, Rhizopus, reproduces by spore formation. The plants, rose, sugarcane, turmeric, grasses, All these plants, they reproduce by vegetative as well as by sexual reproduction both. In the vegetative reproduction, as earlier I told you in class 10, the stem, leaf, the roots, these parts can give rise to the new plant. While flower is the reproductive organ, in the case of plant, the flower consists of so many parts. Flower contains male reproductive organ, stamen. It also contains the female reproductive organ, carpel. After the pollination, after fertilization, zygote is formed. The ovule is changed into the seed. The whole ovary is converted into the fruit. And again, through the seed, the new plant can be produced. The same like in the animals also, in human beings, male-female reproductive systems are to be there. They produce the gametes. Gametes after fusion, fertilization forms the zygote. Zygote develops into the embryo. Then embryo develops into the young ones. Fetus, then young ones. So overall, reproduction is very, very important regarding the continuity of the life, and therefore you can say it is the method only for the survival of the living world on this earth. The third one, metabolism. This topic I have already taught in class 10th also. Metabolism. As you know, we all the living organisms perform certain life activities inside our body, and these life activities are called life processes. Already you have studied in class 10, like digestion, respiration, excretion, transportation. And do you know all these life processes are possible because something is going on inside our body, and that is metabolism. The metabolism you can define. Metabolism is the sum total, SUM, sum total of the chemical reactions take place inside our body to perform the life processes. And mainly two processes are there inside our body. Either the simpler molecules are combined together to form the complex, or you can say the complex one is going to be converted into the simpler form. So here the process of metabolism is mainly divided into how many parts? You can see here anabolism, and the second one is the catabolism. Anabolism means anabolic reactions, and catabolism, that is catabolic reactions. What is anabolism? Anabolism is the process in which the simpler molecules are combined together to form the complex molecule. And I am giving you some of the examples of the anabolism. Example in plant like photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is an anabolic process. The synthesis of protein, this is also an anabolic process. While photosynthesis is anabolic process, you can see, you can remember, in photosynthesis, the simpler molecules combine together to form the complex one. Carbon dioxide, in class 10, I taught you, carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, it forms glucose, C6H12O6. Means the food is synthesized. The glucose is synthesized by joining the carbon dioxide and water. Here these two simpler molecules are combined together into the complex form. So you can say the photosynthesis is a anabolic process. Now the second example I have written here, protein synthesis. Whatever the synthesis term is to be there, it is protein synthesis, lipid synthesis, fat synthesis, synthesis of the starch. Synthesis means formation. The protein is the complex form. And do you know the protein is made up of the amino acids. The amino acids are the building materials to synthesize the protein. So many amino acids are combined together to form the complex molecule, and that is protein. So here also the simpler molecules are going to combine together to form the complex one. So you can say that the synthesis of protein is also an anabolic process. Now the second one, what is catabolism or catabolic process or catabolic reaction? The catabolism is a destructive process. This one is actually, the anabolism is a construction process. The construction is going on. And catabolism is a destructive process. Why it is said to be destructive process? In this process, in catabolism, the complex materials are going to be broken down into the simpler form. And that's why it is called destructive process. For example, respiration and digestion. These two examples you can see here. Respiration. What is respiration? In the process of respiration, the glucose is broken down into the carbon dioxide and water again. The food is oxidized. The food is broken down into the carbon dioxide, water, and energy is produced. And because of the destruction, because of the breaking down of the glucose into the simpler form, the process of respiration is said to be what? Catabolism. In digestion also, you can remember. What is digestion? In digestion also, the complex food is going to be broken down into the simpler form. The starch, it is the complex form. After digestion, it gives rise to the glucose. The protein, it is the complex form. It gives rise to the amino acids. The fat, it is the complex form. It is converted into the fatty acids and glycerol. So in digestion process also, the complex food is converted into the simpler form, and that's why the digestion is also included into the heading catabolism. Now, the next heading is body organization. The body organization takes place in all the living world, especially in multicellular organism. The organization doesn't take place in unicellular organism, as their body is made up of a single cell, like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, chlamydomonas. These living organisms are unicellular. There is no complexity in their body. But when we talk about the plants, the higher plants, the animals, including the human beings, there is the proper body level of organization. And you can see here how our body is composed of, how our body is organized, and this is the flow chart you can see here. And you know, the cell, what is the unit of the living world? What is the unit of your body? The unit of our body is cell. The cell is said to be the structural and functional unit of our body. The cell is the smallest part of our body which is alive, which is living. Below to the cell, their components, they do not show the living characteristics. That's why we say the unit of our body is cell. Because a single cell, I am telling you, a single cell is totipotent in nature. We can grow a new plant with the help of a cell inside the laboratory condition. And this ability, this capacity of a single cell to produce a whole plant, a new plant, this tendency of a cell is also known as totipotency, and the nature of cell is what? Totipotent. So cells are, you can say cell is the unit of our body. So many cells are combined together to form tissues. So many tissues they combine together, then it forms organs like liver, small intestine, large intestine, pancreas. So many organs are formed, and the group of the organs, then it forms the organ system like digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, transportation system, reproductive system. If you will talk about a particular system like digestive system, you can say our digestive system is made up of so many organs. Mouth, buccal cavity, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, pancreas, liver. It means so many organs are consist together to form an organ system. And all these organ system, digestive system, respiratory system, transportation system, reproductive system, all the body systems, organ systems, they combine together to form an organism. Our body is made. So from here up to here, actually this one is the biological hierarchy. And the cell, if you will talk about the cell is also made up of so many compounds, atoms, and you can start from here. The protons, neutrons and electrons, these consist together to form atoms. Then atoms, it forms the compounds. So many compounds, then it forms the cells. But from proton, neutron, electrons up to the compound, this is the physical hierarchy. This is not the biological hierarchy, because just below to the cells, nothing is alive. So these three steps I have not included into the biological hierarchy. If we will talk about the biological hierarchy, it always starts from the cells. These all are non-living, and from cells up to the organism, this is living. So overall, this is the flow chart of the organization of the living organisms, or you can say the living world. Now, the next heading is consciousness. What is consciousness? And you know, consciousness is the response against the external stimulus. All the living organisms, they respond from the external environmental conditions. The external environmental conditions may be light, temperature, humidity, soil, chemicals, the biological agents, pollutants, our body, as well as the plants, all the animals, human beings. All we have tendency to give response against the external stimulus, and this is called consciousness. You can see, in the case of plant, in the presence of light, the flowering takes place. In the presence of light, the embryo develops into the young ones, into the seedling. Further, growth of the seedling takes place in the presence of light. If there will be no light, the germination of the seed fails. If there will be no light, the process of photosynthesis would be stopped. The light also affects so many animals, their behavior. The same like the temperature is also very, very important. Our body, human being, all the enzymes which are required for the process of metabolism, all these enzymes, they work best in the optimum temperature. If the temperature goes high, above 37 degrees Celsius, all the enzymes, because they are made up of protein, they denatured. And finally, due to the lack of enzyme, the process of metabolism, the process of reactions inside our body gets stopped. So optimum temperature is required for the normal functioning of our body, whether it is human being or other animals or plants. They work best in the optimum temperature. The same like the soil. In class 10th you have already studied geotropism, means the plant roots always goes towards the soil. This is called geotropism. The shoot always chemotropism, means the phototropism, chemotropism, geotropism, hydrotropism. In all the kinds of the movement, you can say the external stimulus are required, and these stimulus, they affect the movement of the plants. Now, apart from these main characteristics of the living world, living organism, some other characteristics are also there. The shape and size, means all the living organisms, they have definite shape and their size. All the living organisms also, they proceed the life cycle. Either you can see the plant or insect or other animals, means always they perform their life cycle. The young ones is produced by, in some of the animals, with the help of the larva. Then larva, it becomes adult. In plants also, so many cycles are there. In the next chapter I will teach you haplontic life cycle, diplontic life cycle, haplodiplontic life cycle. So all these life cycles are there, and these life cycles are proceeded by the living things. Movement is also the characteristic feature. The plants as well as the animals, all they have tendency, because plants generally they are fixed, but their parts are going to be moved, and animals, they can move from one place to the another place. Self-regulation. In class 10, I taught you about homeostasis. Homeostasis is the process of the maintenance of the internal environment constant in spite of the fluctuation outside. So we have self-regulatory mechanism. So we can keep our internal environment constant in spite of the fluctuation outside. Digestion, respiration, transportation, these are the also characteristic features of the living organism. Variations, as you know, all the living organisms, they have tendency to change their morphology. The variation also takes place, and variations help to acclimatize, to adopt the living organisms into the different surroundings. Adaptations, so many adaptations are there: aquatic life, hydrophytes, xerophytes, desert plants. Means the living organisms, they have also tendency to adjust themselves into the different climatic conditions. All these headings we will study later on in detail. Healing, repair. Healing means, suppose if you are going to be hurt or the body is going to be cut down, after the sometime the process of healing. Healing means the cells, they grow in their size, their number, and again their wounds are going to be healed. So healing is also the property. Healing and repair both are same. These two processes are going on in all the living organisms. Excretion also. During the process of metabolism, so many waste materials are generated, and these waste materials are finally removed outside of the body through the process of excretion. And death. Death is also a living characteristics. All the living organisms, after completion of their life cycle, the individuals, they get die, and the life, that's why in the start I told you that life is mortal. In some of the exceptions are there in unicellular organisms like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, because they are unicellular organism, their life is immortal, because the same cell is going to be divided into 2, then 4. Therefore, we can say that in unicellular organism, reproduction, the cell division is itself a mode of reproduction, and their life is immortal. But except to the unicellular organism, all the living organisms, after the completion of their life cycle, they get die. And death is also a characteristic feature of the living organism. So that's all for today. And before I close this session, lesson, you please note down some of the questions for the revision work, and you will note down in your for time being, just you can make a register, because on the daily basis I will give you some of the questions, and you are supposed to do all these questions in a separate notebook. Whenever you will come to join this school, I will go through your register. I will ensure that you have completed all these questions or not. So please note down. Question number 1. What is the difference? What is the difference in the growth pattern? What is the difference in the growth pattern of plants and animals? What is the difference in the growth pattern of plants and animals? Second, name the organisms which reproduce by binary fission and fragmentation. Name the organisms which reproduce by binary fission and fragmentation. Question number 3. Differentiate between catabolism and anabolism. Differentiate between catabolism and anabolism. Question number 4. Write the characteristics of living organisms. Write the characteristics of the living organisms. And the last question is, explain organization process in the living organisms. Explain the level of organization process in living organisms. So that's all for today, and tomorrow I will teach you the next one.